Welcome back to the OurView Podcast. On today's episode, I welcome my guest, Santina Muha. Join our conversation as we discuss what it is like living life at ass level. I would like to welcome everyone back to another episode of the OurView Podcast, where we aim to educate, raise awareness, and change the tone of conversation about disabilities. I'm so happy to welcome my next guest for the podcast today, my friend Santina Muha. I'm so excited.
Hi, I'm so excited. Thank you for
Yes.
having me.
Oh, you're welcome. Thanks for agreeing to do this with me. And you and I, we've met many years ago. You are originally a Jersey girl. Yes.
Always. Now I live in Los Angeles, but I call myself a Jersey girl, LA woman.
There you go. All right. That definitely works.
It's on my dating profile.
That's great. So you and I, we met many years ago. We actually have two mutual friends. My friend Lindsay Creaney, who you and Lindsay went to college together. You were in the same sorority. And Lindsay and I, we've known each other since middle school, and she's actually one of the main reasons why I started my OurView company.
Oh, good.
Yeah, so many years ago, she and I were out actually on a trip to see Bruce Springsteen up at the before they closed Giant Stadium and redid it. He did a set of concerts there. So she and I went up, and because of the inaccessibility situations that we ran into on that trip, taking the train up and all of that, we began brainstorming and created the OurView name and the whole idea of what it would be. So as I told you before, she did tell me to tell you hello. And also, and also my friend Jen Coyne, her last name is Golden now. She and I, we went to college together, and you and Jen met out on a fun Snuggie bar crawl. I was told.
we used to do those. They were fun. It sounds like a nightmare now, but at the age that I was when we did it, it was very fun.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So to get started with the episode here, I would like for you to introduce yourself and tell us, who is Santina?
Oh boy. Well, yeah, so I'm Santina Muha. People ask me, how do you pronounce your name? And I truly don't know. We don't know in my family, so whatever. But Santina, there's not many of those, right? I don't know. I mean, like you said, I mean, I'm a Jersey girl. I'm a Sicilian Jersey, girl. I'm pretty stereotypical in that way, I think. And I'm an actor. I'm a writer, a comedian, an improviser, a producer, and a director sometimes, a dog owner. I like to cook. I like to read. I watch a lot of TV and films. I'm a Maxxinista. I love like Marshalls and TJ Maxx and Nordstrom Rack. That's where you'll find me. And Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers. I just looked up and I saw the album. So I kind of have the music taste of a dad. Yeah. I think, I mean, I'm in a wheelchair. I have a spinal cord injury from a car accident when I was 6 years old.
I love that you mentioned having the music of a dad. I can definitely agree for myself with that. Most of the time it is dad music for sure, and songs from the 80s and nothing current. But
it's hard for me to learn current music because I don't know, why would I voluntarily listen to it? It's not on my playlist.
Right.
I don't have like a child or like a teenage daughter or something that's like, Mom, why don't you ever listen to this? So I don't have to. Every once in a while, I hear something on TikTok or something, and I'm like, "Ooh, that's good." But most of the time, it's
Right.
it's just I'm not, yeah, not for
So,
me.
so in your introduction, you did mention that you are a wheelchair user from spinal cord injury. Can you tell us um, about your spinal cord injury and that story of how it occurred and what it means for you, how it impacts you and your daily life?
Yeah, so I was 6 years old and I was involved in a three-car accident. Actually, we were innocent party to this accident. We got caught up in these other two cars that had a crash, and the seatbelt in the back seat tightened, and it was a lap belt, and it tightened and caused a spinal cord injury because it went kind of through me to my spine. That was actually sort of common, more common than I didn't real, more common than I realized. That's why they have shoulder straps in back seats now. And I mean, it affected me in so many ways, but also I don't know, like, people ask, what do you think you would be like if you weren't in a wheelchair? And I think, like I said, I am Sicilian, I am from Jersey, so I think I always kind of would have had an outgoing sort of personality and a little bit of like a tough bravado. But I think that being in a wheelchair helped to strengthen that because I have had to advocate for myself all my life. I've had to ask, questions that my friends didn't have not had to worry about, or I've had to think ahead a lot, probably more. I'm not as, I can't be as spontaneous as I feel like I want to be, like I feel like that's one thing that maybe would be different. I feel like I'd be more of like a, let's take a backpack trip around Europe kind of a girl, which I cannot do at all. I mean, maybe I could, but because of my situation, I'd rather stay in the nice hotels that are accessible. But it's always the most expensive hotels that are the most accessible. Ugh.
Yes. Yes.
Anyway, um, yeah. So I think also it really contributed to my comedic personality because as a child with a disability, people would come up to me and they would just be so sad just at the mere sight of me, and I was like, oh god, I make people sad. So I immediately started to learn, break the tension with a joke, tell them about some funny thing that happened with the nurse or a boy I like in school or something, and then they would laugh, and then that would break the tension. And then, okay, and then everybody's more, and it's like, even as a child, it was my job to make the adults and all the other kids and everyone else around me comfortable with my situation, right? That's put on us as the people with disabilities
Right.
to make everyone else comfortable. And so I think that really contributed to my comedic sensibility. And also, I mean, I wanted to be on TV way before I even, knew what a car accident was. But I definitely have fought harder for that, knowing that the lack of representation is a problem, and it's extra important for someone like me to make it in this industry.
Definitely. I loved what you said, and yes, my mouth literally dropped open when you said that you would be more spontaneous because
Why?
because I feel the exact same way. I'm already spontaneous.
Yeah.
I will, I'm not married, I don't have any kids, so I will just get up and
Hmm.
go.
Hmm.
Especially the pre-COVID world. I would just get up and go and take a trip. I still live in Jersey, so I'd go to the beach and, just go spend the day. And
Hmm.
yes, watch out world if I did not have all of
Yeah.
this holding me down.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I've done that too, a little bit. Like, I took a spontaneous trip to Hawaii 2 weeks after I came back from Sicily once because I needed like a rebound vacation. Like, I
From the
was like,
vacation.
that was too good. I'm gonna cry. I was literally crying. I was like, I want to go back to an island because I love Sicily so much. And my friend was gonna be in Hawaii, and I said, okay, I'll meet you there. But that, like, my friend was going to be there, I knew I would be staying in like an accessible resort, so even though it was spontaneous, it wasn't just like a pick up and go as I probably would do more of. I'd
Right.
probably do more camping, I'd probably do just more things that I don't have to think ahead or make sure there's a bathroom or make sure that, you know what I mean, all that stuff.
Yes,
Yeah.
definitely. I 100% identify with that because I
Hmm.
always hear a lot of people say, you know, uh, things to me like, oh wow, like you just get up and go. And I'm like, yeah, and trust me, I'd be doing a whole lot more. Like you said, if I didn't have
Yeah.
to think ahead to wonder if the place was accessible, if there's bathrooms, if there's, or whatever. Uh, a situation just happened to me this past weekend. I stayed in North Jersey at a hotel, and I got there to check in, and they tell me there aren't any accessible rooms available because they're all under renovation. And I'm just like, at the same time, like
Why would they do
all at
that?
once. Yeah. So,
Right.
so it is those types of things that we have to, even though I did plan and reserve an accessible room, it's still just those things that come up, for us at the last minute where it's just like, it wasn't my fault, but
Yeah.
there are no accessible rooms available at this hotel. So it's like, do I stay anyway? Do I get
Mm.
another room at another hotel? It's like all of those things that we, as wheelchair users, have to face, and again, by no fault of our own, because we do everything we can to prepare ahead of time for
Mhm.
it, and then it's just still something that just meets us there when we get there.
Yeah, and
So
you were on vacation or whatever you were doing. You don't want to start off your whatever it was by having like some sort of social justice argument with somebody,
right.
and you just want to, you don't we don't want, like, I don't want to do that. I don't want to be like a disabled Karen who's like, I need to speak to the man. I don't want to do that. I don't look forward to educating people everywhere I go. So I'd like to just arrive and check in and just live my
Right.
life and have my vacation or whatever.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So you touched on, again, in your introduction, and just in describing your disability diagnosis, and about you being an actor and comedian, and I follow you on social media and Twitter and Instagram, and I love your post. You crack me up so much. It's just
Thank you.
some of the things that you post, and watching your IG lives sometimes, and I watched one the other night. I caught the very last like 5 minutes of it, and again, things that we run into as people with disabilities, and there were comments that were saying for you to show your feet,
I know.
and
It happens every time.
but it was so funny because you said without missing a beat, like, I'm sitting here showing all this cleavage and you want to see my feet?
Yeah, because I had a low cut shirt on that day, and everyone kept saying, "Show me your feet." I'm like, "What are you talking about? Hello, this is where the goods are."
It was
But hey,
just
people like what they like, I guess. I don't
it
know.
was just so funny because it was just like, I was like, oh my gosh, like this person just won't stop. And you were like, wait a minute. So your acting and your comedic timing is something that I truly appreciate. What really encouraged you, or made you realize that acting and comedy is what you wanted to do?
Well, I mean, I've always, like I said, I've always wanted to be an actress long before any disability or anything. I just, there's some people who just come out of the womb like, "Ah!" I think that was me. And I don't know, like I would watch TV and just feel compelled to be there. I would get up during the theme song and insert myself into the intro wherever I thought I would, fit, all my life. And not, I don't still do that. Not all my life. I don't. Well, sometimes it depends on the show. It depends on the show. But and then the reason that, I mean, I think part of the reason I feel connected to comedy, one, like I said, because it's always just been a tool I've used to make people comfortable. But I think the other thing is, growing up, every time I saw disability on TV, it was so dramatic. It was the very special episode, or the the Oscar award winning moment, and where the character ends up killing themselves at the end, and how brave they were for, living half of a life after their disability. And it's like, wait, okay, that's a fine story to tell once in a while,
Right.
because there are people that happens, but that's not the only narrative. And all the people that I know who have disabilities, that's they're not living like that. That's a very rare perspective. I don't, like, I have to say, knock on wood, I personally and I know hundreds of people with disabilities. I don't know one who has taken their life because of it. Not one. And I know hundreds through different organizations I've worked. And I'm not saying that there aren't people out there who've done it, but that can't be the only narrative we're putting out there. It's terrible. And it's so twisted that growing up, because I didn't know anybody else in a wheelchair really at first, it was even making me think that people with disabilities were depressed. Even me, a person with a disability, thought, wow, I'm so happy that I'm the exception to this horrible rule. And then I started to meet other people with disabilities, and like I said, and realized it's not what's happening. And it's a terrible narrative to put out there. And as I felt like I had a responsibility to show the other side of it. And so I think that's why I've gravitated towards comedy. And also it's just fun. It's fun. I like being around my comedic friends. I mean, I've done things like musical theater and drama, and I don't know if those are, it's not necessarily my tribe. Everyone's a very specific type of people, and they're great, but they're not exactly my tribe.
Right.
Not that I'm not saying they're, not like improvisers or some sort of cool tribe or something. It's just, I can't sing. Okay. I can't sing. I don't roll around singing all day. It's not my, when a song comes on, I don't belt it out to, impressive. I just sort of, I make it I'll do an impression of the character of the singer more, you know what I mean? And so I felt like, okay, this is my genre where I feel pulled.
Yeah.
And I also grew up watching sitcoms with my grandmother, my nonna. We watched sitcoms all the time because she was from Italy off the boat and I was 4. So, we were both alongside of each other learning English through the Golden Girls, through One Day at a Time, through, all these shows we would watch together. And I learned comedic timing from the laugh tracks of these sitcoms.
Yeah, it's so, I love what you said about, wanting to change the narrative of what you were seeing and what you, of what they were putting out. And it's so true of, in movies and in all of the TV shows where they have people with disabilities. It has gotten a lot better in recent years, I think. But it was just so negative and just so sad all the time. And like you said, I can definitely identify with what you were saying with that's not how I was living my life. So it was kind of like a conflict. Like, should I be more sad that I have spina bifida? I don't know. And everybody that I surrounded myself with, again, as you said, when I was younger, I didn't know anyone else who had a physical disability like mine that walked with crutches or used a wheelchair. So I had no one to compare it to, but the people in my life, they were all like, hey, well, let's do this. Let's go out. Let's go to the beach. Let's go to the amusement parks. Let's do all of this stuff. And we're going and you're coming with us. So I could not identify with what I was seeing on TV. And I think for you to say that you wanted to do that just because you've always been passionate about it, but also to help, change that narrative and, as I say, change the tone of conversation about disabilities. That's that's really, really great, really cool, because that's all that I really want to do. I want you, the listeners of this podcast, to see and to hear that we do a whole lot of fun stuff, and we are cool people, and we have our bad days like everybody else, yes, where the pain gets to us and the discomfort and all of that, but we love, we love going out. We love going to bars and wineries and all kinds of stuff. I'm almost 40, so I don't do it as much as I used to, but
right. Exactly.
But every now and then we still like to get it in and have a good time.
Right. Exactly. Yes, I'm still from the Jersey Shore. Like
right.
That if you watch the Jersey Shore, that is where I was going. Those were the same clubs. Sometimes, as a matter of fact, they were filming while I was living there. I'd have to sign waivers, when I'd go out to bars, because they'd all be hanging out there. And in case the camera caught you, you had to sign a waiver that you were okay with them using your likeness on the, So it's like that's what that, crazy as it sounds, I feel more connected to the Jersey Shore than $1 Million Baby. Okay. Anytime. Yeah.
Yes, that is.
Sorry, I mean, I'm not proud of it,
Yeah,
but
but
it's
it
what it is.
is. It's so true.
Yeah.
So true.
You know
So
what? I am proud of it. I
you
am proud of it.
you should be. I know I am. I
Yeah, that's right.
So, speaking of the club scene and all of that and being out and having fun, a
Oh,
few years ago you created
yeah.
one of the funniest videos that exist on YouTube, and the song is called Ass Level.
Right.
And I will now apologize to my mom and any other real adults who are listening to this podcast right now. My favorite line is when you say shout out to FDR motherfuckers.
Yeah.
Because he was
Right.
in a wheelchair, so
Yeah. Yeah. Right. As
it
though we're supposed to just, well, of course he's my favorite president. He was in a wheelchair. Why would you think? No question. I
it
mean, come on.
it was just so, again, your comedic timing with that was just great because it was so unexpected for me. I was like, wow, okay, like it fits, it's appropriate. Like you said, he was in a wheelchair, so I mean, why wouldn't you shout him out in this song? So, can you tell us about the development, how you created the song Ass Level and what it's about?
Yeah. So like I said, I was so sick of seeing just TV and movie just showing us the negative sides of being disabled, because of course there are negative sides, but there's also some perks, as I call them, which is like the parking, cutting lines, being memorable, and then I throw in some joke ones in there, like not having to get the shoes when you go bowling or
Right.
whatever, being able to take your dog anywhere and, people can't really question you, stuff like that. So it hit me when I pulled into, I was like with some friends and I was joking. I pulled my car into a parking spot and I was like, it was a handicap spot. I'm like, that's right, VIP, and I realized like, oh, okay. So I wanted to do something that showed all of these perks. And I thought, what is a medium that is like braggadocious? And then I went, oh, rap songs. Rap songs. I mean, especially my favorite rap genre is like the Salt and Pepper, the Lil Kim, the like sort of Missy Elliott, get your freak on years. So I love that sort of 90s rap.
Mhm.
So Ass Level was kind of an homage to all of those people. And yeah, and it was just like a fun, I wrote the lyrics. I was in a sketch group at the time, like where we would meet on Tuesdays and bring stuff and get feedback from everybody, and so I brought it to that group a few times, got some feedback, and then I let it sit in my computer for about a year or two, as most things do.
Yes.
And then I started working with my friend Allison Becker, and you might know her from Parks and Rec, or she was a VH1 VJ for a while. And she's a great friend of mine. And we wanted to work on something together. And she heard the song, I played it for her, and she was like, yes, this is what I want to work on with you. And she took it on as her directorial debut. She did an excellent job. And yeah, I know, it's amazing. And because I wanted it to feel like a real video, I didn't want to half-ass it. And I think it did. I really think it did. And I never felt like more of a star than I did those days on that set. Number one on the call sheet, kicking people out of the makeup chair because Santina's here, kind of a thing, which normally, like, no, I'm so low down the thing. But I felt like I had two, costume girls helping me get into my Spanx, and like it was fun. It was just fun. And I tried to cast other people, other wheelchair users as dancers, as well as some of my able-bodied dancing friends, just to have some variety there. I tried to cast wheelchair users in all of the wheelchair character positions, but it was hard to find. It was hard to
Hmm.
find people under. It just was. So I did what I had to do, but I made a real effort to have diversity among the whole thing, because it's important to me, and it was fun.
What the video is so fun. I when I knew we would be recording this, I watched it again because I just loved it because it's so true of, like you said, you highlighting all of the perks that we get, um,
Hmm.
from being wheelchair users. And I can't tell you how many times I always get oh, so you're going to drive to the concert, right? Because you get the accessible parking. And I'm like, oh, yeah, like I guess it does make sense. And I have my chair and like, sure, I'll
Hmm.
drive, no
Hmm.
problem.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. The parking is good.
Yeah, so it's really it's just it's all about living at ass level because in sitting in a chair you are at a lot of people's ass level.
I know.
So
I know. I can't tell you how many times I've been in a bar or a club and told somebody, excuse me, your phone is ringing because I'm
right,
right next to their pocket and I can hear it and they're like, what? Oh, thank you so much.
right. My favorite, which is always uncomfortable, is people that may be like backing up and you're kind of like trying to reach for their back, but it's kind of like I
Yes,
don't want to I don't want to touch your behind to tell you, but you're going to bump into me soon, so I have to
I
do
know.
something.
Yep, I know. I think probably maybe as a woman I can get away with it more because I've touched many
Right.
asses. Just
Yeah,
stay out of my, yeah.
yeah, you definitely can get away with it more.
Yeah, yeah. You might want to not
No.
do that. Yeah.
So, the last question I have for you is usually how I wrap up the podcast conversations, which is what do people misunderstand about people with disabilities? And that can be um, anything that people misunderstand about you and your specific condition, your specific diagnosis, or just about people with disabilities in general.
I think one thing that people do is they'll meet one person with a disability and then think, oh, well, that's everybody's life, and that's just not true. And I'm writing a book right now, and I'm trying to be very clear that this book is from my point of view, not from spinal cord injury, the mayor of spinal cord injury land. Like I don't speak for everybody, like first of all, I'm a paraplegic, not a quadriplegic. That's number one. I'm a woman. That's number two. I'm white. That's number three. I'm from the coast, and now I live on a different coast. I've never lived in the middle of the country. I don't know. So there's just so many things that contribute to my experience as a person with a spinal cord injury, or as a wheelchair user, or as a person with a disability. I don't know what it's like to be blind or deaf or have spina bifida or have MS, or I don't know. I mean, yes, can we relate on about certain things that maybe my friend Jen can't relate? Yes, but guess what? Jen and I, we get our periods and you don't. So it's not like you and I are exact and Jen and I are two stranger. Like
Yeah.
everybody has everybody is just a snowflake. Everybody is different, whether they have, and that includes people with disabilities. And I think the other thing that's important to note is that I don't think about my disability until I have to, so, and unfortunately, I think people think that because of the ADA, everything is accessible now. That I think is probably the number one misconception, right? Because how many times, and I bet you face this too, you go somewhere it's not accessible and your friends are like, you should tell them, you should sue them, you should call them. And I'm like, who is them? Who do you think is them? We already have it. It's already a law, but so is don't do coke. And I'm sorry, but have you ever been to a Rutgers party? People are doing it, okay? It doesn't matter that it's a law. So people find ways to get around laws, and business owners are obviously no different. As we've just seen over this past year, people will do what they need, what they want to do for their own business most of the time. And so the world is not as wheelchair accessible or as, accessible for people with disabilities as it should be by now. I mean, I thought by now we'd have flying cars. I still can't even get into half the bathrooms
Right.
in restaurants. It's
Right.
nuts, really. And like, when you said you were on the train with Lindsay earlier, I got like a pang of PTSD because when I was at Rutgers, I had an internship at Comedy Central and I'd have to go into the city 2 to 3 times a week. And the trip, getting to that internship and getting back home was by far the most difficult part of that internship for me. I mean, you know what I mean? Not the photocopying, not the paper cuts I would get, not the, nothing, not being intimidated by all the people around me. I mean, those were all things I was also facing as a person with an internship, but just getting there in the morning and having to, figure out how to wait for the accessible bus once you're in the city. But that's one something to say. Never mind all the elevators that go out. I mean, the elevator at the New Brunswick station went out literally the day I started my internship. So rather than going into the city from the New Brunswick train station that I could see from my dorm, I had to drive into Edison to the Menlo train station every time, even though there was a train station truly up the block for me, because the elevator was broken, and they did not fix it until the day after I was done with my internship.
Wow. So
I never once got to use the elevators. And in the subway system in New York is only half of some, I don't know how many of the subways have elevators. And then that's even when they're operational, because a lot of times they break and nobody cares. So we have to really do a much, much better job about accessibility, because I don't roll around my apartment going, I'm in a wheelchair and I'm making tea. I'm in a wheelchair and I'm watching TV. It's when I go somewhere and I'm like, oh, I can't get in here. Oh, that's right, because I have a disability, right, and I can't, So if we could just level that playing field for people, I think people would find that people with disabilities are more than capable, very smart, truly better at adapting than anyone, than anyone I know. And the reason that you think, oh, I don't really see a lot of people with wheelchairs, so we don't need to make it. Yeah, it's the reason you're not seeing them in your business is because your business is not accessible.
Yeah.
Hello.
I always say that. I always say that it's very likely that you would see more people with disabilities out and about if more things were accessible for them.
Yes, it is. And our money is just as green, as they say. And, and it's discouraging, because the older I get, when I was in my 20s or my teen years, okay, so I'd be out with my friends. Oh, this place has stairs. John, carry me. Woo, we're having fun. I'm getting older. My friends are getting older. I don't want to be carried up a flight of stairs anymore. And my friends don't want to do it.
Mm-hmm.
We need to start, but now I'm getting to the point where I'm thinking about having children, and I don't want my child's life to be affected because mommy can't get on the like I was at the Grove the other day in Los Angeles, and they have one of those trolley things, those things that go through, and it's not accessible. And it's like, well, what if I was there with my kid and they wanted to go on that? What am I going to tell them? No, because mommy can't go on it because it's not accessible. I mean, that's not fair now. And it's bad enough that it's not fair to me. Now it's going to be, and that, that's really going to piss me off now when it starts affecting my children's lives. So like, come on, dude, we got to do better. It is 2021. Let's fix this. Can't we? What's going on?
Yeah, that's so, all of what you said is so true. And especially that, I love what you said, that just because you have a spinal cord injury, you don't speak for everybody who has a spinal cord injury. And just the difference of, you being a female, me being a male. But also, I love what you said of people who live on the coast versus people who live in the middle of the country. Like, everybody's experience is different.
Yeah.
And access to things is so different. And it's all of those things have to be taken into consideration. And like, yes, I can tell you about my experience of living with a disability, and you can talk about yours, and they're two totally different things.
Yeah, that's one of the things I like about social media, which has, many negatives, but it has also many positives. And one of the positives is that I'm seeing people with disabilities in other places, and I'm seeing, oh, look at this girl. She just pushed her wheelchair right into a lake and she's fishing. Like, I never would have thought of that, so it's like I'm getting to see these other people's experiences, or people in other countries who have different, they've discovered different ways to go about things. So I think that's good, and that we are sort of more in control of our narrative that way through social media, so we can show the world, hey, look at me doing all these normal things, and not, just crying or, spending my life in support groups.
Right. Yes.
Yeah.
I enjoyed talking to you, and
Me too.
I love your perspective on all of this, and it's just really always, like I said, it's always great to talk to you. I can't wait to travel again so I can get out to LA and
Woo,
we can
yeah.
hang out.
Yes, I know. Me too. And I can't wait to have you on my show, Rolling with my homies. That will be fun.
Yes, yes,
And
I
we'll
will.
flip the script.
Yes, definitely. I will be more than happy to do that. And thank you so much for your time today. And I will definitely be in touch with you soon.
Thank you so much for having me. Thanks, everybody, for listening.
Thanks. This
Stay
was
safe.